And happy Thanksgiving. It's Captain Trucker. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you all tuning in, man. I just pulled over in Grey Cliff, Montana to make this video for you all. And I wanted to say once again, happy Thanksgiving to all of our viewers here and around the world. Love you all. Most of you. Not all of you. Anyway, in today's video, I want to talk about the differences and some of the strengths and weaknesses of the education systems in the Philippines and the US. And I want to frame this in a way so it's obviously one's not better than the other. I don't want to create that narrative because I don't think it's true. I just think they're different. And I think a lot of it is a matter of location, resources. And when you're in a developing country, you got to kind of just be a little bit more choosy and do your research depending on the location you're in and stuff like that. And I just kind of want to talk about some of that. It's kind of a complex thing because first of all, the education systems are a little bit different in their style. Like one emphasizes more memorization, and they say like in the US, they broadly speaking, like it's more critical thinking skills and individualistic. And they say generally in the Philippines, especially in the private schools, it's, you know, they teach more character development and respecting the elders. And the learning style, they say, is a little bit more memorization. Okay. But anyway, I think generally speaking, like I said, it's more a matter of the particular school, how involved the parents are, and also getting your kids involved in tutoring, as well as having online curriculum at the home, like Time for Learning. That's one I used, and I think it's really good. It's a really good one. It kind of goes K through 12, and there's like these interactive modules for the kids and stuff. But anywho, check this out, guys. I was talking recently about the literacy rates in both countries, okay? To my appalled discovery, the United States has like a 21% illiteracy rate versus the Philippines was about 28% or 29, something like that, something around there. So it was only about an 8% difference, and this is going from a developing country to a wealthy country. And I just thought that was mind-blowing. I really did. But numbers are also misleading, so let's just talk a little bit about that really quick. And pardon me for having to, I got to read from some of my notes here because I can't memorize all this stuff while I'm driving. According to World Bank, the literacy rate is around 98-99% in the Philippines officially. But when you look at how well the kids are actually doing, you kind of get, or learning rather, you get a different picture. So PISA international test, that's where 15-year-olds from around 80 countries take this exam of reading, math, and science. And the Philippines, unfortunately, has been near the very bottom of this. Okay, it has improved a little bit in 2022, but it's still not doing so well. They rank 75 out of 81 systems, apparently. So the U.S. is supposedly like the world leader, right, in education, but they're struggling too in different ways. And from what I've gathered, a lot of it is just attention span and comprehension. I think there's just more and more kids on social media, obviously, more distractions, the TikTok generation. And you even see it in social media, right? Like in YouTube, we have long form videos like this, but even that is starting to get shorter. Literally, you got like YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram, and it's so like just flashy and quick, and it's like you get in that cycle of just shorter and shorter attention spans. And I think people are really struggling with that, man. And I still don't think we even know long-term studies on that. But yeah, let's break this down. So in the US, like I said, the literacy, and this is in the US, 43 million adults have low English literacy in the United States. So around 54% of US adults read below the 6th grade level. In the quote, nation's report card on high school seniors, 12th graders show reading and math scores at their lowest levels in decades. Only about 35% are proficient in reading, around 22% in math. So, yeah, I mean, I want to back up a second here. For me, this choice and like raising the kids in the Philippines and all that, especially in the education system, I think for me a lot of it is character, a lot of it is cultural. I really do, and I think it plays a huge impact in the future of kids, in the way they learn and just the type of people they are, right? I'm not saying like the US obviously produces fine people and so forth. I just think we're a bit more competitive here. And as far as family values, I don't think it's as a family-centric culture and community as it is in the Philippines. And that's just my opinion. I think that we have serious mental health problems in this country that are not addressed properly. We have psychopharmaceutical companies that are funded media, and there's a lot of propaganda. 66 million Americans are taking psychotropic meds, including kids. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of these public episodes where, mentally ill people go out and do stuff like this. It does happen in schools. I mean, not a lot, not to where you got to be like legitimately concerned that could happen, but it's more the mindset is very disturbing, right? It's kind of strange. And that kind of stuff, like, these public events where they do this, that's unheard of in other cultures, man. So it's not to bag on the US, but what's going on there, right? But anyway. So, I mean, you have international schools in the Philippines that teach, the curriculum and stuff, and it's mostly diplomats or wealthy expats or extremely wealthy Filipino families. But it's kind of like you've got the kids in like the elite school bubble to where they're only around the rich kids, so to speak. I'm not even sure that's the best option for education either. Tuition can run into the tens of thousands of dollars per year. That's very real. So you got private schools. I think it's kind of the better middle ground option for expats, all right? That's just my opinion. Let's look at some of the struggles, though, really quick. Why kids are falling behind, okay? Like in the Philippines. And we're going to compare it to United States as well, okay? So basically overcrowded and underfunded in public schools, okay? Tens of thousands of classrooms short and millions of kids are packed into the system. You got about 40 to 60 students in one class. Another thing is also poverty and like survival mode, and this is a very real thing, man. I mean, kids are going to school literally hungry in some places, in the cities and the provinces, and families struggling like in legitimate poverty. It's not exactly like the best environment for higher learning, right? Like when you're actually worried about what you're going to eat that day, and your parents or your father's an alcoholic and stuff like that. That's a hard life, man, and it kind of has an effect on you. And I think the people we're around can have an effect on us too. And I tell my son, I tell him, you kind of do have to surround yourself with positive people and stuff. It's kind of I do believe I'm here to help the people, and to be a man of the people and to accept everybody. And I realize, like, I've had successful friends and friends who are at the lower function and levels of society, and I've hung out with homeless people and different people with different conditions. I got stuff to do in life, man. I can't just do distractions, so gotta surround ourselves with good people, man. So yeah, poverty is a big issue in people struggling in the school system. Also teacher overload, and just the system designed. There's not enough resources, basically. So why kids are falling behind in the United States? Well, they call it, number one, inequality on steroids. So in the US, your education depends massively on your zip code, apparently. Rich districts have smaller classes, AP classes, robotic labs, and counselors, and poor districts have outdated buildings and burnt out teachers and so forth. And like I said, screens and phone time, social media, the attention collapse is getting way more serious. And I don't think we've seen like really long-term effects that this is having, but I suspect it's much more worse than we think. Also, cultural wars, curriculum chaos, a lot of political stuff here in the US, a lot of division. There's, I don't want to get too specific into it, but there's the people are arguing over how history should be taught, and there's a lot of stuff in different communities about what we're teaching our kids about LGBTQ stuff or other stuff like that. It can kind of be controversial. And there's just a lot of family breakdowns, man. There's a high divorce rate here. And parents gotta work, man. Both parents are working. They can't really oversee what's going on in the kids' education. And you got split families, man. And that's hard. That's very hard on kids. And I think it's having a serious effect on the culture, man. So there's no reason why the literacy rate should be way higher in America, basically. But yeah, how the systems are built differently, like I said, a lot of the Catholic and Christian schools, the private schools, they're kind of focused on morals, religions, and value. And I think in the end, like, that stuff is very important, right? Like, respect, character, treating people well and everything. And, you know, the US, it's more about individual expression and stuff like that. But anyway, so who does what better? Well, let's go to the Philippines. They, like I said, the strength, respect, and discipline, okay? Community and family, multilingual skills. And the Philippines' weaknesses is underfunded and overcrowded. United States have massive resources, good critical thinking, debating, creativity. And at the top end, like US high schools still produce some of the highest performing students in the world. But they say it's heavily tied to wealth, unfortunately. So here's the deal. Like, I don't think that the kids need to be basically in some, you know, crazy expensive elite school to succeed in the Philippines. Like, I had one, British guy on my channel who was like, oh, all the finest kids and the most brilliant minds go to the international school in Manila. Otherwise, they're not going to have a good chance to succeed in society, and they're going to fall through the cracks, and they won't be able to get good jobs or careers. And I just don't think that's true. I think brilliant minds can be anywhere in the world, in any family. They can be in a truck. They can be in the outbacks in Australia. They can be in a developing country in the Philippines. I think a lot of it, man, comes down to the family. I think some education too is just some of it's genetics and character, right? And I think if the parents are involved, and I know for me, like my son's mother and in that community, the mothers are taking these kids to school every day, and they're with them at, not like in the classroom, but they wait for them at the school, right? And they're all kind of involved, and the kids are going to tutors, and you can get a good tutor there for maybe like 1,000 pesos a week, like $20, and they'll work with your kids one-on-one after school on whatever they need to do, and read it, and science, or math and stuff like that. But my son's doing well. Like, every time I see him, it's like his intellect and his education seems to be exponentially growing, right? Which is really cool. And I'm really surprised at how good his English is. His English is like a lot better than a lot of American kids. And maybe it's because obviously I talk to him in English, his mother does, and like I said, we also have the home curriculum and stuff like that. But, you know, in certain provinces and certain areas, you might not get the best private schools, and so you got to just do a little bit more research there, I would say, when you're in developing countries. But it's definitely possible, man, to get the highest quality education in a private school versus an international school. Okay? And I think also in international schools, you're kind of doing the expat diplomat bubble deal, to where you kind of want your kids to be exposed to different people and not just like, you know, think of himself as like the elite rich kid, right? Because that can be isolating as well. So education, man, is a lifelong process. It's involved, and I think exposing kids to other cultures is healthy for that. And I'm proud of my son. And I think in the future, because there's going to be more expats in the Philippines, I think they should just know that it's still possible to get a good education in a developing country. Anyway, that's just my thoughts and opinions on it. Let me know what you guys all think. It's Captain Trucker. Did you like my old man reading glasses? These aren't reading glasses, but I got the wrong frames, man. They don't look good, so. But they make my vision like 2015. Anyway, it's Captain Trucker. Thanks for watching. Share your comments on this topic, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Bye-bye. Wow, that was was fun.